Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Lights Out F1 podcast. After about 400 rearrangements and Zoom calls and people running out of storage, all this kind of stuff, we've all managed to find a time to be here together ahead of our home Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix. I'm Matt Salmons. I'm joined as usual by Joshua Fletcher and both of the Callums, Callum Owen and Callum McAvoy. We're going to have a look back at the Canadian Grand Prix. Not too much to talk about there. There's a bit of news that we've got to get into as well that's happened this week that is kind of constantly evolving and changing that we're going to touch on as well. And then obviously it's Silverstone at the weekend. Is it Silverstone or Silverstone? That's also a debate that we'll probably have at some point. We've got Silverstone at the weekend, which we're obviously going to be talking about the British Grand Prix. So plenty to crack on with. So let's get straight into it. Let's look back at our predictions like we always do for the Canadian Grand Prix. And Joshua, all four of us predicted Charles Leclerc to take pole, and he got an engine penalty and started near the back of the grid, and It was Verstappen who took it.
Yeah, quite typical, isn't it? But I think at least all four of us did it, so no one lost out on points or anything. But sort of, I think we did those predictions Tuesday, Wednesday. I think I sent them over, and then Thursday or whatever it was, he got the good print at me. I was like, oh,
there's the excuse. There's
no excuses. But it was unfortunate, but is what it is, really, isn't it? And at least we all lost points on that rather than just one of us.
And we usually come to the wildcard predictions at the end, but as we're talking about qualifying, applause has got to go down to Callum Owen over there, who predicted both Alpines in the top 7 in qualifying. Just about got it with Alonso, a fantastic P2. Don't forget it was a wet session. And we've got Esteban Ocon in P7. You must have been super pleased to get the point for that, Callum.
Yeah, it might be my first wildcard of the year that I got right. So that was the main thing. But no, it was clear all weekend that Alonso had far too much pace for an Alpine. I think it was Otmar Safnauer that came out and said, we don't know where that came from. So I was sweating over Ocon, but the Alpines look fast this year, arguably the 4th fastest team ahead of McLaren. So it was good to see it come in.
And very few points dished out this weekend. I think we all got one each. Obviously, Verstappen won the race, followed by Sainz and Hamilton. Callum M got no points for the race finish. I got one for getting Sainz second. Joshua didn't get any, and nor did Callum either. Joshua got Verstappen winning the race. That was it. Not too many highlights from the race, was there, Callum M? I mean, the talking points. There was plenty of overtakes, but nothing that was too kind of entertaining. It was all very DRS orientated, wasn't it?
I don't really know. I quite like this one. This is probably one of my favorites of the season. But I get what you mean. It was kind of, and it was to be expected at Canada, always going to be around that DRS zone. But I quite like this one. Canada's kind of hit or miss. I think it's either really exciting or really memorable, or it's kind of boring. So I'd file this in the kind of more exciting category. It was nice to be back in Canada after a 2-year absence. I think that was the main takeaway from the race. The crowd were up for it as well. And when we eventually do our big circuits, make our own calendar podcast that we keep teasing, I think Canada will be on there, or at least on my one anyway. So.
I mean, you could level at me that I don't know what I'm talking about, because I will put my hands up. I did fall asleep for most of the race. I think I woke up and the safety car was out after, I think it was Sonoda had crashed. So I'm kind of only basing this off the short, 5-minute highlights that we got on YouTube. It was a long day at work that day. Joshua, over to you. You predicted in your wild prediction that Russell would finish lower than P5, and it was P4 for the Brit.
Yeah, I'm sort of getting to that point now. I'm struggling a bit with these wild cards to try and change them up and make them different every week. And I don't know. I think at that point we knew that Merckx would be running 2 different setups. I thought maybe he would get the worst end of the deal. Wasn't to be, but I mean, the wild cards are just a bit of fun, really. It's not something that sort of we should have any insightful knowledge on, and it wasn't to be. But I mean, as a Mercedes fan and a George fan, I mean, I'm not going to complain with 4th, am I? So it was a decent result for F1 and for George and everything. But yeah, I don't really know what I'm talking about on that one.
And my wild prediction was Vettel to finish in the top 5 and he retired. So that's all we'll talk about on there. Callum M, you predicted 3 groundhog invasions. I left you in charge of that one. I think I've given you a point for it because I think I saw 3 different clips over the weekend. Anyone else differ? Did anyone see less than 3 groundhog invasions?
I definitely saw 2.
I definitely saw two, but I imagine there was another one. I'm sorry I didn't watch every pre-practice session. I do have a life outside of F1, believe it or not. I didn't want to stay up to 10 o'clock to watch pre-practice 2 on Friday night, no. But no, I did see there was the one in the first pre-practice, which I think Sainz nearly hit one.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the one I think you shared, Matt, with
Latifi hit one,
Latifi killed one. And that groundhog sacrificed himself for my wild card, so I think you've got to give me the point.
Yeah, we'll give you the point. We'll give you the point for that one. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all there is to talk about in terms of Canada. The only other thing I did note down, we'll get to the predictions table in a minute. The only thing I didn't note down is that clash between Kevin Magnussen and Lewis Hamilton. I say clash; it was a little bit of contact, but Callum Magnussen was shown the black and orange flag, I think, to come in and get that front wing changed. He obviously complained that there wasn't really, Haas kind of said that the damage didn't really affect Magnussen's performance, but obviously he got shown the flag and was told to come in. What did you make of that?
Yeah, it was harsh. He was running fine, and it wasn't as if there was any sort of danger. It was just he'd lost an end plate and it was flapping about. I think there's been people that would and have continued on with less. I mean, we literally saw Max Verstappen compete with half of a car at Hungary last year. So I don't know. I think it was harsh. It was Magnussen's fault. He did maybe try and stick a move on Hamilton when there wasn't a move there. But it was a racing incident. It was no one's fault, and he definitely shouldn't have lost out as much as he did because of it, because it ruined his race. He was on for a good points finish, which is, something that Haas desperately need. So I don't know. I thought it was a very, very harsh decision.
And I think for me, that's pretty much everything that there kind of is to talk about when it comes to Canada. The only other thing, Joshua, was some of the we saw some very close pit lane incidents where cars were kind of slowing down early to go into the pit lane, and those that were carrying on into the chicane, which is obviously a much higher speed part of the track, were almost going into the back of them. Is there something, maybe a track change that should happen there, do you think, or is that just completely, that's going to happen every year, no matter what you change?
Yeah, I found myself grimacing a few times that, it's a bit close there. There was a couple of instances you were a bit like, but I think that's what makes it enjoyable. It's one of those more unique ones where you get that sort of exit and it gets a bit close shaves, but it's what makes it part of that Grand Prix. It's quite exciting. And we've not had anything serious there that I can remember for a while. So, unless we have a huge crash there, they'll have to change it, but for now, just keep it as it is.
We mentioned the pit lane entry there, but also the pit lane exit. Pretty exciting to see Verstappen and Hamilton coming close at the exit of the pit lane at one point as well. I was asleep at that point. I only saw that bit on the highlights. But yeah, that was pretty exciting to see. Obviously, nothing really came of it in the end. Hamilton didn't fight the move and just let Verstappen pass towards the end of the lap. So the predictions table, the bit you've all been waiting for, we all gained a point this week, so it stays as it is. I'm bottom on 8 points. Callum O is third on 9. Joshua is second on 11. And Callum M, you remain supreme on 13 points. And I'm sure you'll come up with something good for this weekend's British Grand Prix. Let's move on to the news. And it's sadly news that we don't want to be bringing you these days in 2022. There's two pieces of news that involve kind of racism allegations that have, happened and various things have come out of them. We'll talk about first Formula 2 driver Yuri Vips, just because this one came out first, and we'll talk about the other one in a minute. Was suspended by Red Bull from the Red Bull Academy for using offensive, racist and homophobic language during a live stream where it was a gaming live stream. But Callum McAvoy, High Tech have allowed Yuri Vips to race this weekend. The High Tech boss basically saying people deserve a second chance in life. And Yuri Vips is now going to go out there and show people that he's not, all of these things that have been said about him, with regards to what he said to the stream. I mean, we've all seen the clip. It's undeniable. He said what he said, and it was a total disgrace. But obviously, he's been given a second chance by High Tech. What do you make of that?
It's a tricky one. I don't want to say anything too controversial. I think I'll say that given his age, he's only 21. We'll give him this second chance, but he has to prove himself now. There's not really much more I think you can add to it. He was very quick to apologize for it, and again, you don't know how sincere that is, obviously, but given his age, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but this really is kind of his last straw. sort of thing. So yeah, obviously Red Bull dropping him from the program, which yeah, probably the right thing to do. And especially the fact that it happened on the same day as the other incident that we're about to talk about, I think was quite interesting, especially since Red Bull have been quiet on that particular incident as well. But yeah, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what kind of reaction he gets at Silverstone as well. That'd be quite interesting to see. But yeah, a lot of discussions need to be happening.
Well, yeah, that is the main thing. That's what I was just thinking about. That was going to be my next question to you, Joshua. Do you think that it could be that Yuri Vips comes out for F2 practice on Friday and maybe doesn't quite get a nice reception from the Silverstone crowd after what's happened?
I mean, you'd hope so. You've seen the rally around the other issue, which we'll get onto, and it's been generally quite positive. Obviously, there's always a few idiots, but generally really supportive of Hamilton for that one. And you'd hope that fans call it out. You've sort of seen it happen in other sports with discrimination and racism and everything, and fans have been quite quick to jump on it and go for those perpetrators. So you'd hope so, but it's not like football almost, or rugby or whatever, in that they're there in front of you and they can hear it. I mean, whether they do or not, he'll notice it afterwards, but in the heat of the moment, it isn't really going to do a lot. It's more the actions on almost social media now, and I don't think he should be racing personally. I think there's no place for it, and it is what it is. But he is racing, rightly or wrongly. It's up to his team to decide that. But you'd hope there is a bit of a reaction and people protest or do complain and make a big deal out of it, because it should be made a big deal out of.
I've not got the statement in front of me, but Formula 2 put out a very strong statement saying that this isn't a decision that they would have allowed. I don't really know how it works, but surely Formula 2 would have the authority to just throw him out if they wanted to, or is that not how it works? I don't know.
I'd imagine that Formula 2, whilst he's done wrong, they'd have no grounds to throw him out over that, and it does come down to the team.
Okay, yeah.
Two sides of the same story, in that High Tech have acknowledged it's wrong, and they said it in nearly every other line of their statement that they know it's wrong, but they want to give him a second chance. And F2 came out and said, well, we wouldn't have made this decision. But I don't think it can go any further than just sort of differing opinions.
So I'm assuming the only basis that Formula 2 can throw somebody out of a championship is if they, I don't know, radically break the rules, crash into people every week, build up penalty points and stuff like that, rather than kind of, I don't know, I was going to say political things like this, but it's not political. It was wrong, and we all know that. But let's move on to something that has obviously impacted and probably had a bigger piece of coverage, just because this is Lewis Hamilton. Yuri Vips is not the most famous racing driver in the world at the moment. Lewis Hamilton certainly is, and it came out, I think, on Monday or Tuesday this week that Nelson Piquet used a racially abusive term when talking about Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton said, "It's more than language. These archaic mindsets need to change and have no place in our sport. I've been surrounded by these attitudes and targeted my whole life. There's been plenty of time to." There has been plenty of time to learn. Time has come for action. Joshua, just shocking.
Yeah, it's almost surprising it's taken this long to come out. I think I read somewhere that the actual podcast or radio interview or whatever he did happened in November. I think, I don't know, I might be reading that wrong. I think the actual incident happened in November. It's only just been leaked or come to light in the British media. But regardless of when it happened, it's wrong. It's incredibly awful, shocking, and I don't know. It's very easy for us to sit here and say, "Oh, you shouldn't be saying it. It's wrong. It's offensive." Times 100. It's so much more severe than that. But I don't know. It's almost hard to talk about, because you don't want to talk for other people who it affects more. But yeah, it's just disbelief that these things can still happen, and I think generally it's been very supportive and it's been a very good approach to tackling it. I think I read somewhere today that the BBC said he's been banned indefinitely from the paddock. Definitely the right thing to do. You can't allow people like that to have access to drivers, to teams, to whatever. I mean, it's almost as far as you can go, really, unless Hamilton or anyone else wants to take legal action. That's pretty much as F1 can do. I think most teams and most drivers have put out very strong statements. Some more than others. Some supportive of Hamilton and Mercedes more than others. I think Charles Leclerc did a very powerful one. I think George Russell did as well. Ferrari very supportive. But again, I don't know what else F1 can do. Sadly, I think if there was a bigger punishment and more severe punishment, we'd all want to see it. But there isn't really a lot more, sadly.
And F1 did come out and say that discriminatory or racist language is unacceptable in any form and has no part in society. Lewis is an incredible ambassador for our sport and deserves respect. And they also said his tireless efforts to increase diversity and inclusion are a lesson to many and something we are committed to at F1. Callum, the thing I'm worried about here is Lewis Hamilton is not far away from retirement. You know, when Lewis Hamilton does retire, who is going to be that figurehead for promoting diversity and inclusion within F1 when he's gone?
Well, I think it's quite interesting just hearing that statement again from F1. They're saying all the work that Lewis has done in this issue. Good, Lewis has done a lot of stuff. What have F1 actually done? They did this We Race as One campaign, which they
lasted a year, 2 years.
Why did they ditch it? Was the issues that they were trying to solved? No. Why was that all of a sudden gone? You know, and that's what really I couldn't understand at the time, and I think now, I'm not saying that they'll bring it, they should bring it back, they probably should bring it back, but why did they stop it? I knew when they launched it wasn't going to solve things quickly, or I thought this was a good starting place. And for them, as I said, it lasted a year basically, and it's just a bit of a joke, really. And it's a wider thing with this sport. Every time you think they're moving in the right direction, they take another 2 steps back. And it's not just racism, the problems there. It's other stuff like going to countries like Saudi Arabia. Not saying, oh, we're going to do more to help the environment, but also let's have a calendar that takes us around 5 continents in 5 weeks. That's really, really helping the air miles, isn't it? I don't know. Again, I'm not someone who probably should get as angry as I do because of who I am. But yeah, the more I thought about the story, the more it angered me. And the other thing as well is people said, this is not the first time Nelson Piquet has said something controversial. And I saw a tweet from someone saying, I've never understood, Nelson Piquet is a 3-time world champion, but I've never understood why his peers have never regarded him in the same way that they've regarded Senna or Lauda or any other 3-time world champion, or even any 2-time world champion. Like people like Alonso and Jim Clark are regarded as better drivers. And why is that? Why do people not regard Nelson Piquet very highly? It's because of stuff like this, basically, is the reason why. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it, really. So.
I mean, I wanted to pick up on one thing you said there, where you said because of who you are, you maybe shouldn't get as angry about it as maybe other people. But surely this is part of what. Surely people like us who are in a privileged position should be getting angry about it because we want to help support these people and create that diverse environment for everyone.
Oh, we should be. It's just I think I'm on the point that perhaps we're not the most qualified people to talk on the matter because we probably haven't faced much, if any, discrimination in our life because of the way we look. But yes, I should be angry, but yes, there are better people. There are people who can phrase what I'm trying to say better than me, is what I'm trying to imply.
Yeah. Callum, Owen, anything else that you wanted to add on this before we move on?
Yeah, obviously, as you've all said, it is a difficult subject to sort of navigate. Obviously, we all know it's wrong, and any action that's taken against Piquet is good. And him being banned from the paddock is arguably F1's first action against racism. The We Race as One campaign, as Callum and Josh have both said, whilst might look good, achieves nothing because it
just ticked a box.
Yeah, it's words, and whilst words can be good, as Lewis Hamilton said, the time for talking's done. They've had enough time to know this is wrong. It needs action. And hopefully PK being banned from the paddock indefinitely is the start of action against this. And whilst I'd love to sit here and say, hopefully it will stop things like this, it won't. This won't be the last. But if everyone can show that they will take any action against it, then that's a forward step. It's just unfortunate that it had to take an incident like this to get any sort of action. But I think that's the world we live in.
It's such a shame that we've had to discuss this and dampen, that are probably all three of us our favourite weekend of the year as well, which is, the British Grand Prix. And such a shame that it's come out before that. And we mentioned with Yuri Vips about the reception he might get on track. We certainly know the reception that Lewis Hamilton is going to get when he pulls out the pit lane for FP1, and certainly looking forward to see that and all the support that he's going to get. And I'm sure there'll be banners and stuff like that supporting him as well. So looking forward to hopefully seeing all that, and hopefully F1 take a look at themselves and put things in place rather than these, videos that, are just there to kind of blankly kind of say things that don't really mean anything without doing anything, if that kind of makes sense. I think that's pretty much everything that we wanted to talk about in terms of that. Don't know if anyone else has anything to add. Interrupt me now if you do. If not, I will move on. Cool. So let's talk about some slightly more positive news. If your name is Pierre Gasly, or maybe not so positive, who knows, depending on where he wants his career to go. But it came out this week. I think it was, or it might have been the week after Canada. I think it was at Canada that it came out, wasn't it? That Pierre Gasly has signed a contract extension with AlphaTauri, meaning he will be at the team until the end of 2023. Joshua, a decent signing for Gasly, or do you think he should maybe be looking to be a bit more ambitious and move up the grid a bit?
I don't know. There's obviously no...
Good for stability.
Yes, good for stability. Probably good for his progression and maybe just get another year or two as a number one driver. There probably wasn't any other opportunities immediately where he could go. I think McLaren have still got their two tied down. Ferrari have still got theirs. Red Bull's not going to change. Recently re-signing Perez. And the Mercs, you probably maybe would get another season out of Hamilton, potentially. But there's no gap there right now for him to fill. So probably the best opportunity for him. But maybe a year or two down the line, you might see a Red Bull seat come back up. You might see a Merc seat come available. Potentially if Ricciardo leaves McLaren, but is a McLaren really a step up? He probably wants to be at that Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari. Mercedes maybe at the moment the looking like the best option if and when Hamilton goes in the next season or two. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, probably good for him to stay in the sport and just make sure he's got a contract. But I think for him, probably not where he would have wanted to have been at this point in his career.
And Callum, Pierre Gasly, we've not seen the Pierre Gasly that we've seen in 2019 and 2020 in 21. I don't think there's in 22. Sorry, I don't think there's much doubt about that. So, is it unsurprising that he's not maybe going any further forward than AlphaTauri, considering the way he's performed this season?
No, I think I agree with pretty much what everything Josh has just said. I think it is a case of there just isn't a seat available for him. All the drives for next year were pretty much, at least in the top half of the table, were pretty much wrapped up as soon as Perez signed his extension with Red Bull. I think with Gasly re-signing now, there's only 8 seats available next year, and they're all in the lower half of the table. So unless he wants to go to Williams or Haas, which is not a place you want to go, AlphaTauri was probably his best bet. The only slight advance he could have gone to is Alpine, but I think they're going to sign Alonso, and Gasly's going to get that Williams seat for a bit. So yeah, I'd rate another year. I don't think his results have been bad this season. I think the car's just not that good in comparison to previous years. And he's had some reliability issues as well. So I don't think it's all down to him necessarily. But yes, results do need to improve if he is to he kind of just needs to stay in the argument for a race seat in the future, I guess. So.
I mean, Callum, there's nobody really anywhere else in the grid that looks like they could potentially, go into one of those top teams. I mean, Mick Schumacher seems to have just fallen off a cliff this season, and that's kind of where I wanted to go next.
No, I suppose Gasly is the sort of the heir to the throne when it comes to the next midfield driver to make the step up. It's just unfortunate that Red Bull seems to have closed the door on him. Obviously, Ferrari are very locked in, have their own academy. McLaren would have been the obvious step, but it does look as though, based on Zach Brown's comments, that they are, whilst maybe not as happy as they'd have hoped to have been Ricciardo, they're still not going to drop him. So it was a little bit of Gasly stuck in that holding pattern. And whilst AlphaTauri isn't a move that's particularly great for advancing his career, he's still shown he can do incredible things at that team. Because if you take his stock when Red Bull dropped him mid 2019, he was done. His career in F1 was over, and we're talking about him 3 years later as the guy who should be in a top team. So he's proven he can get the most out of that AlphaTauri package, no matter if it's good or it's bad. He can pick up results, and he's shown he can be an excellent number 1 driver, which is always a trait that teams will look for. Even if you're coming in as a second driver, they're always going to want that long-term view as a first driver. So I think, whilst it's maybe not the move Gasly would have wanted, it's the best one for him at the moment. And it'll be a case of just reevaluating his options this time next year and seeing if a bigger seat can come up.
Cool. So that's pretty much everything I think to cover in terms of news and Pierre Gasly. There is a Mick Schumacher conversation I want to have at some point, but I think I'll save that for another day, because we've got a British Grand Prix to look forward to. So why not spend a bit of time looking forward to that? And Joshua, I know you've been out and about this week. You got up close and personal with the Williams. Tell us about what you've been up to.
Yeah. So just by chance, really, I'm signed up to most of the team mailing lists and stuff. And I got an email from the Williams. Well, not personally emailed by Williams. Unfortunately, I wish I was. No, so they had a pop-up. They have a pop-up still going at the time of recording at Westfield in White City, sort of Shepherd's Bush, which is about half an hour in the car from where I am. I was going that way anyway to a recording of a TV show at Television Centre. So I went and popped into Williams pop-up. And yeah, they had the sim racers in, and they had this season's car. I think it was the FW44 and Nigel Mansell's FW10, and then some British merch, special merch for this year. So yeah, just got to see a retro F1 car, if you like, and a modern car. It was pretty cool. We did see a couple of people from I forgot the name of the podcast, but 2 very good female F1 podcasters. I'm going to see if I can remember the name. It's going to be really bad if I can't. But it's one I'm a big fan of and make sure I listen to. But they were very busy in conversation with some of the staff there, so didn't get a chance to say hello and how much we rate their podcast. But we did see them, and I will put the link in the description because I cannot remember it for the life of me. But yeah, it was just really cool to see that, and so close. And with not going to Silverstone, probably the only chance I'll get to see a Formula 1 car this season, so that was quite cool. I did miss out on Nicholas Latifi though. He was there the day before for a meet and greet.
That's a shame.
I would have tried
awful.
to see if I could get you a video, Matt. Sure. But no. So, and I think Jensen Button's there this week or at some point. They've got some special guests, and I'm disappointed I didn't get a chance to go on the sim racer. There was a huge queue, and I had to shoot off to go to the TV studio. So I would have loved to do the sim racer, but if anyone's around this week, well, by the time this goes out, it'll probably be closed. But go down to White City. We'll put a tweet out, encourage people to go out to Westfield in Shepherd's Bush. But no, it was quite a cool half an hour or so we spent in that pop up.
2 questions for you. One, did you ask those podcasters if they listen to our podcast?
No, I didn't get a chance to have any conversation with them at all. I would have plugged the podcast.
Come on, free promotion. You should have made a lights out pod T-shirt.
Yeah, no, just take the merch, just hang it on the hanger. I would have done like asked for a collab or something, like done a TikTok promoting it. But no, I wish I had. But it's a very good podcast. The name slipped my mind for a minute, but the 2 I saw both on the same podcast, but brilliant at what they do. So I'm really regretting not remembering it now, but no, we will make sure we remember that.
My other question is, please don't tell me the TV show you were going to watch was James Corden's Late Late Show that's come back to the UK.
No, but I did apply
thank God
for that, and I didn't get it.
Oh God, and that's a good thing. That's a relief for you.
More so for the musical guest than James Corden. No, it was Mo Gilligan's The Latest Show Christmas special. So. Christmas. Yeah, it was. So I think he's on tour or something, sort of like in October or November, where they normally film them. So it was a very weird like singing Christmas songs, and I obviously can't reveal too much, but very Christmassy mood, like in late June,
nice.
was quite strange.
I'm sure we'll all keep a lookout for that on the BBC towards the end of the
Channel 4, but I
4.
think if the edit goes how I think it might, I might be on there because he comes and stands next to me at one point.
Oh, nice.
So I might be on TV for a bit, which I'm not best pleased with.
You can't beat a TV appearance. I mean, I was caught on
made
the
up some
Sky.
merch. I should have made up some podcast.
You should have.
Just plugged it like with the side.
Being on TV is never a bad thing. I mean, I was caught dancing at the cricket last week on Sky, so it can't really get much worse than that, can it? Anyway, enough about you, Josh. Let's talk about Silverstone at the weekend. We talk about our thoughts on the track every year. Callum, is it a complete waste of time me asking you about what you think of Silverstone?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we've said everything. It's the best track on the calendar. That's all you need to know. Atmosphere, facilities, the racing, the actual spectacle of the cars. You know, as if you want to see how quick an F1 car moves, just go down to Maggots and Beckett's and watch them glide through that set of corners. You know, even if you see classic F1 go through it, it's incredible. Yeah, you know, fantastic circuit. Is it better than Monaco? Yeah, just probably. Just Josh up a bit. Yeah, no, love it. Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
For me, the best part about Silverstone being there every year is if I'm either sat at Cops or Abbey, I'll turn to my dad and go, "Do you want to do it flat out this year?" And every year they do it flat out, absolutely no problem whatsoever. And you mentioned Maggots and Beckett's there. There's now a news stand. Is it Chapel, the way out of that onto the Hangar Straight? There's now a newsstand there which faces into Maggots and Beckett, so you see them kind of coming like that towards you. And I sat there last year for qualifying, and it was something special. So I think I'm going to head down there again on Saturday because that was one of the best memories for me last year. Callum, some memorable Silverstone races last year. Obviously, this is the anniversary of that crash between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Do you think we're going to get a repeat of that again this year? I mean, the answer surely is no.
I don't know. I'd like drama, but maybe not one that nearly kills Max Verstappen. Yeah, no, I think Silverstone's always good. There's always some sort of drama, whether it's a fight, crashes, some really good overtaking. So I'm sure we'll see something. It's like we had Leclerc and Verstappen obviously in 2019. That sticks out for me as one of the best sort of back and forth duels I've watched for a long time. So something like that would be brilliant.
What year was it when Vettel went into the back of someone going into Vale? Was it Vettel or someone into the back? Was that 20?
Verstappen in 2019.
Yeah, I remember that as a particular standout. I was also I was sat at Stowe the year that I think there were about 4 tyre blowouts all on the Hangar Straight or something like that, something ridiculous like that. I remember seeing that, but I was kind of like 12, 13, so I don't really remember that one too well. But yeah, certainly remember it. It's going to be different this weekend as well. No sprint. We obviously had the sprint at Silverstone last year. Back to the normal format. Not as many races as well, no, because F2 and F3 have dropped down to 2 races each this year. Joshua, how excited are you to be back at Silverstone, and how jealous are you that you're not going to be there?
Very excited that we're back there. It's definitely up there in my top 3 at least. I think maybe even 1 or 2. It is brilliant. Always sort of something to talk about. I remember recent years. Obviously, we had the Hamilton Verstappen thing. We had the tyre blowouts. Hamilton winning it on 3 wheels, which I thought he was going to lose it. So a lot of talking points always from Silverstone, but always a great event as well. And very jealous that you're going to be there, albeit maybe not for race day, but just to experience that for a race weekend. Soon, I hope. Maybe in the next couple of years, I'll find myself back down in Northamptonshire. But no, I'm looking forward to it. It should be good, and you never know. Mercedes sound confident, or the others sound confident that they'll be able to produce something. So why not?
Get yourself on the Silverstone mailing list for next year, and then
I'm on the Silverstone mailing list as well. I went to that Christmas event a few years ago with Lap of Lights or whatever it was called, which was it was very good fun actually. It was quite a. I think once you've seen it once, you've sort of seen it,
done it. Yeah.
I don't know how much they can change, but no, it was a good thing to do. But yeah, no. Hopefully sometime soon we'll manage to get ourselves down there.
And as someone that lives in Northamptonshire, obviously where Silverstone is kind of, I think half the track is actually in Buckinghamshire. I think the border goes through the track, but I've never heard anyone say, "Hopefully, I'll get back to Northamptonshire" ever in my life. So that's a first from
There
you,
you
Josh.
go. It's a compliment to your hometown.
Yeah, exactly. We'll take that. We'll take that. Even though it's half an hour away. Callum, the last thing that I want to talk about before we get to our predictions is the big debate, because I mentioned it at the start. Is it Silverstone or Silverstone?
Silverstone.
Callum,
Silverstone.
Josh?
Silverstone.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll go with that. I usually say that. I think.
There's no debate, Matt. It's all that way. You've
I've heard
literally
people say
made this
Silverstone.
up.
I've heard people say Silverstone and some people say Silverstone. It's like
Does it
Shrewsbury and Shrewsbury.
does it depend on if you're from Northampton or from Buckinghamshire? Is that what it is? Like there's a
Maybe,
divide.
yeah.
Like,
If you're sat at Cops, it's Silverstone. If you're sat at Village, it's Silverstone. I don't know. Yeah, I think Silverstone, because I don't know. Sometimes your commentators say Silverstone, sometimes it's Silverstone. I don't know, but who cares? To be honest, it's not worth debating, is it? Let's talk about qualifying predictions then. Callum I'll come to you. Who's going to be on pole for the British Grand Prix on Sunday?
I think Charles Leclerc will be on pole. So if you're betting, Max Verstappen will be on pole. But I'll go with Charles.
Well, I've gone for Max Verstappen. Joshua, what about you?
I think I went Verstappen. Yeah, I went Max on pole.
And Callum M?
Charles Leclerc for me.
Nice. So we're split straight down the middle, which means you two will probably be right because Callum said Leclerc. In terms of the race, I've gone for Verstappen to get a bit of kind of revenge from last year. I think he's going to win the British Grand Prix. Leclerc's going to finish second. And just to throw one in there, George Russell is going to come third. That'll be nice to see him on the podium at home, won't it? Callum M, let's come straight back to you for your top three in the race.
Right, so my top three kind of ties into my wild card a bit. So I'll explain more. I'll explain more when we get to the wild cards.
Okay.
But I'm going to go with Carlos Sainz to win the race. He very came close in Canada. I think that win is coming. And then I've been a bit bold here. I've gone George Russell and Lewis Hamilton on the podium.
Very nice.
You'll see why when I talk about my wild card a bit later.
Callum down to you.
I've gone with Max Verstappen to win, Charles Leclerc second, and Lewis Hamilton third. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about how Silverstone will suit the Mercedes more. So, Lewis Hamilton at his home track, he's won 8 times. I'd like to see him on the podium.
Just before you just said about suiting the Mercedes. Did any of you see that clip of Pieface the other day playing the F1 game in Miami where he's going down the straight and he put a tweet out saying it's the most realistic game he's ever played, and as he hits his whatever button it is on the Xbox to go down the straight, he just starts bouncing in his chair like that, and he's driving a Mercedes. I'll send it to you after this. It was quite funny. Joshua, your top three for the race for me.
I've gone Charles Leclerc to win, Max Verstappen second, Lewis Hamilton third.
And I'll throw it straight back to you for your wild card.
I mean, again, is it a wild card? I've gone patriotic. I've said all 3 British drivers, and by that I mean Hamilton, Norris, and Russell. I know Alex Albon is, but he races as a tie driver. So just based on that, so I said Hamilton, Norris, and Russell all finish inside the top 10.
I'll give you 2 points if Albon finishes inside the top 10.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I think it's going to happen.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. I think that probably will happen. I think you'd be surprised to see that not happen. Callum, will come to you.
It ties into Alex Albon quite nicely, actually. Alex Albon to make Q3. So it happened last year with Russell, and for me, it was the biggest cheer of the weekend. Watching Q3. There's rumours Williams got an upgrade package that'll be on Albon's car this weekend that could be worth a second lap in qualifying. Well, I'm sure that's not true. He's proven he can get that car into Q2, so if he can get a couple more attempts from the upgrade, he could well find himself in Q3 at what is sort of his home race.
I'm struggling a bit with my wild prediction. I've got 2 in my mind, like I did with Canada, as Callum M will remember. The first one is for we've obviously seen Ocon and Hamilton clashing on track quite a bit, so I've gone for Ocon and Hamilton to collide, forcing Hamilton to retire, give Hamilton a bit of karma for last year. Or I've gone for me to actually see a crash live at the track, but it doesn't really count because I can't really say only F1, can I? If I can include F2, 3 in the W Series and the Porsche Super Cup, which we're all going to be watching, if I can include that, then I might have it. I'll think about it. Callum, what do you think?
What of my wild card or of your
Either.
wild cards?
Either.
I mean, whereabouts are you sat again?
Well, nowhere, because you can go anywhere on Friday and Saturday.
Well, you could just put yourself in like a prime position where they all crash. So,
yeah, but wherever you sit, crashes don't happen. That's the rule. That's the law at Silverstone.
I suppose. I don't know. I'll go on to my wild card. It actually kind of relates to your one. Right? They're all linked. They're all linked together this week. That's quite nice. So yeah, Silverstone's quite renowned for title rivals clashing. Obviously, Verstappen and Hamilton last year. But I don't know if you saw F1 put a video out like your top 5 most crazy Silverstone moments or whatever. And you had Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher crashing in the 90s. What was the other big one? They had just a few like throughout the years of just title rivals coming together. So on that note, I'm going to say that there will be a crash or some kind of like big incident between a combination of Leclerc and Perez, or Verstappen and Perez, or Verstappen and Leclerc, given they're kind of the big three going for the title. Although, as I did say last week, I think Verstappen's going to walk it this year. But yes, that's my wild card.
Mm-hmm. And it has to involve 2 of those 3 drivers. It can't be like Perez and Latifi or something, because that's just guaranteed.
No. It has to be any combination of those.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really torn. I don't know whether to go for Ocon and Hamilton or me to see a crash. I think me seeing a crash, if that can include F2, F3 in the W Series and the Porsche Super Cup, of course. I'm going to go for me seeing a crash, and I have to take a picture of it. You know, the driver walking away or the car stopped or something like that, and I think I'll take that.
2 points on video.
I was
saying
the exact same thing. If you catch one on video, we'll give you 2 points.
I don't want to spend the whole weekend watching it through my phone.
2 points.
Oh dear, I'll definitely put some tweets out from our account, but whether or not I'll get a crash on video, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But I'll sit at some high-speed corners where something could happen during a practice session. Anyway, that's enough of that. If you are going to Silverstone, because we've got so many followers, make sure you say hi, come and surround me. That'd be great. If anyone that does watch this regularly does see me, say hello. That's fine. I'll probably be sweating and red-faced, just so you're aware. And yeah, if you are going to Silverstone and you don't have no idea who I am, go and enjoy yourself. Have a fantastic weekend. If you're watching it at home, have an equally fantastic weekend watching it with the comfort of aircon and just cool air and all stuff like that, or maybe even being dry, because I think there was a little bit of rain forecast certainly on Friday and Saturday in the afternoon, but we'll have to see how that one goes. To everyone listening, thank you very much for that. Joshua's got his hand up. He's like he's in school. Joshua, I
have found the podcast.
Hey,
I mentioned it. They are obviously much bigger than us. It's the F Series podcast. So
that's a clever name.
Yeah. So I saw them. So you're not going to see this. If by some miracle you do see this, it's a great podcast. I do listen. We didn't have a chance to chat to you, but it's a very good podcast, and we listened to it. And I felt I had to find it. I felt really bad. I spoke about it, and I was like, I am a fan. I do listen. I do watch the clips and stuff on TikTok, but I just couldn't remember it for the life of me. But very good podcast. Didn't
have a chance to share all your F1 podcasting knowledge that you've gained throughout the last 2 years.
No, I really should be more clued up. Just have a list of all my favourites. I was at the top, obviously, but no, I had to find it, and I couldn't have done this without finding it. So there we go. F Series.
Perfect.
Podcast, very good.
Perfect. Right, let's wrap it up there before this gets out of hand and we start recommending podcasts that aren't ours when it's us that actually need the listeners. So yeah, if you're going to Silverstone, have a great weekend. If you're not, have an equally good weekend. We'll be back next week ahead of Austria. I want to say, I think. Yeah. And until then, we will see you all later. Thank you to Josh, Callum and Callum for joining me. And we will see you all later. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.